can be very useful, but you better understand what heart rates, pretty well. Number one, if you're going to use percentages of your max heart rate, you better know what your max heart rate is. You can't guess at it. Number two, you got to realize what other things affect heart rate. And the two main things that affect it are dehydration and heat. Because as soon as it gets hot, your body will send blood to the skin to cool down from the evaporation of the sweat. So it's got to pump much more blood out per minute than it did when it was only going to the muscles. So your heart rate is going to go up big time. And your heart rate on a hot day, or your heart rate when you're dehydrated, and some of that dehydration came from your blood compartment, that means your heart's going to be beating a lot faster than the speed of running would suggest. And so then you have to answer the question, do I need to train at this speed of running, or do I need to train at this heart rate? More often you want to train at a certain speed of running. So the heart rate's going to fluctuate all over. So as long as you're up with that, then using heart rate's good. There's no problem with that at all. If you breathe like that, you're not ventilating your lungs. You're moving a lot of air in and out of here. And so the rate is too fast. So the volume of air you move in and out of your lungs is the product of tidal volume, which is the size of each breath, the tide going in and out, multiplied times the frequency. If the frequency is real high, the tidal volume becomes real low. If the frequency is real low, the tidal volume can go way up. Like if you breathe 4 steps breathing in, you get big breaths, but you don't get them often enough to move. The most air can be moved during running when you breathe about 2 steps breathing in and 2 steps breathing out, or 1 step breathing in and 2 out, or 1 out and 2 in. That rate, we know that for a fact. So most people, when you're running fairly hard, should breathe 2-2. 2 steps breathing in, 2 steps breathing out. Even though you could run with a 3-3 rhythm. In fact, we do that a lot of times with runners, especially when we take them to altitude. They say, how much slower should I run up here at altitude? And I said, well, let your breathing tell you. If you usually breathe with this rhythm at sea level, use that same rhythm at altitude, and it will be associated with a little slower speed. And if you can't hold that rhythm, you're going too fast. And in a marathon, you should never, ever have to breathe faster than 2-2. You ought to be able to breathe 3-3 most of the time, but I would say 2-2 is more. I've tested hundreds of good runners, and every time we test them, we count their breathing rhythm. We don't tell them that because they'd do something weird if we told them we're going to count your breathing. But about 86% of them breathe 2-2 of all the good runners.